probably 1,400 more or cows, not sure, cows and heifers here. Haven't heard the official number. At midnight and 2 in the morning, not a lot of things going on. And so we kind of try to keep cows clean and stuff like that. First of all, in 1979, I had a chance to be the Ayrshire official judge, and I found that extremely challenging. We know that cornstarch tends to be a bit slower compared to wheat, which you find in Europe, and barley in Canada. The salvage value of that cattle is probably going to be close to $1,500 to $1,800. I had to buy a replacement. That'll cost me somewhere around $2,500 to $3,000. Smells beautifully, got a great aroma. Like it smells like corn size supposed to smell. I look at it and I see no corn. This is smashed corn.
Hello everybody, today we are in the World Dairy Expo and we will show you how this works and what I have here with Dr. Mike Hutjens. So enjoy this video.
How are you doing, sir? Good to see you. Very good, very good, very good, very good. Yeah, I'm doing fine. Well, we're basically walking through one of the many cattle barns. I haven't heard officially, but usually about 1,400 dairy cattle from around North America and all over the United States are here with all the various breeds, including the red and white Holsteins and all the other standard. World Dairy Expo started probably in the mid 1960s, as far as that goes. My first opportunity was actually grad school, and they hired me to 10 at night to 6 in the morning to walk the barn. So there are really two functions with walking the barn. One was to make sure nobody's harassing the cattle, and then number two, fire, as far as that goes. But then since typically at midnight and 2 in the morning, not a lot of things going on, and so we kind of try to keep cows clean and stuff like that. But it was always interesting the day before the show, very busy at midnight because cows are being milked and uddered for the show to follow the next day. So we did that for 2 years as grad students to make money, to be very honest, as far as that goes as well. Then basically in the 1970s, I was coaching judging teams. And so we would come down here with teams to compete in the collegiate contest that's held here every year. And also bring the kids down here a chance to walk around, look around, and see the cattle. You'll see World Dairy Expo. It's a big dairy show. As we said, probably 1,400 more or cows, not sure, cows and heifers here. Haven't heard the official number. Probably down a little bit because of the flu. That's the bird flu, and all these cows had to be blood tested to be able to get here. And now, if you're Canadian, they have to be blood tested to go back across the border to be sure that they didn't pick anything up at this point. And if you're from Pennsylvania, then they got to be tested every 7 days. And the cows have been here over 7 days, so it adds another wrinkle to the for the cattle show. Very prestigious show. Winning this show here will almost guarantee you an All-American and the most valuable animal, Holstein cow, 3-year-old, whatever the age is going to be, as well in the show. So the cattle show is big. I'm not sure what percent of the people come for the cattle show, but I think it's a modest percentage. Most people come here to see the new equipment. You'll see that a little bit later on, we will show you walking around where the equipment is outside, some of the most modern equipment, technology. Of course, a couple of the booths now, the hot thing is AI. A lot of interest in AI, and the question is how to use it in the dairy circles. Has been a common question as well. So when you're here, it is probably the dairy show in the United States. There's also a big show in California, but that's includes cropland and irrigation and other species as well. So this is the dairy show. There's a big one in Canada as well, known as the Royal, and that's pretty much all Canadian cattle from that aspect as well. So besides the cattle show, if you look at the list of activities every day, there are educational efforts. And this will feature prominent researchers or industry people that talk about marketing dairy products and opportunities, terms of expansion, contraction, and stuff like that. And that's their major educational effort. They also have what they call educational nooks. And that's a 25-minute presentation done by companies showing newer technologies and newer applications. And you can see what those are all about as well. Also, every day there's usually 2 farms that are featured by virtual. It used to be that they would have farm tours going on the farms, and now with COVID and now with some of the disease challenges, they go to the farm, record, and on the farm, and then that dairy farmer, his herdsman, his wife, the sons, daughters come in, and then they show the video, and then they answer questions and additional comments as well out there in the program. So, and then of course, companies have their own seminars. In fact, that's the reason I'm here. I was speaking at one of the seminars with 2 other experts that we had out here in the area of hemorrhagic bowel syndrome. So certainly a lot of things to see and say. They'll probably have 800 booths here as well, all the way from mastitis, AI, genetics, bull studs, the whole 9 yards as far as that goes. So certainly it runs for 5 days, and so it's a very active 5 days. Normally they will attract about 55,000 people attending the show, of which about 10% will be international, and there are people from all over. In fact, I met our class through Santa Fe Institute here, someone who took the class from Ukraine and Japan. And so it's kind of interesting to see the reach out of what the classes can do as well. So that gives you a little idea on Expo. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. No idea how big financially it is, but it's obviously one of the biggest shows here in Madison and here. Producers will come in probably within about 300 miles, 600-mile radius. We'll drive in here. But certainly if you've got cattle here, you're here for probably 10 days to get the cattle adjusted and taken care of. So that's a quick overview. Probably started here in around the mid-1960s. And there was a core group that wanted to have a big dairy show because there used to be one in Iowa called the Congress, and that one stopped. And so the dairymen said, well, where are we going to be able to show our cattle to gain some recognition? And that started, and then the industry aspect emerged from that. Beautiful facilities here for the livestock. Trust me, you came here in 1970, nothing like this was here as far as that goes. So that'll give you a quick overview of what you can see here at Expo here. We're in the cattle barns, very comfortable, very well ventilated. And of course, it's in October, and so that makes it fall. So ideally, we're going to be about 70 degrees Fahrenheit here in the afternoons, and that'll get down to 40, 45 degrees at night. So it'll really cool off. Typical Wisconsin weather as far as that goes. Well, one other thing, as far as judging goes, I've had 2 different experiences here at Expo. First of all, in 1979, I had a chance to be the Ayrshire official judge, and I found that extremely challenging. At that time, the show had about 160 total animals, so it's a modest-sized show as far as that goes. The Canadian Ayrshires are extremely high quality, so it was pretty common that you could see that those breeders from Ontario and Quebec did quite well as far as that goes. So I found that very challenging judging. One of my biggest challenges was that there was an all-American 2-year-old cow, Ayrshire, and she was all-American, big, rugged frame cow. And now she calved in here 2 days before the contest. And so the cow had a lot of edema. And so I really struggled. Where am I going to put this cow? Knowing that she was all-American last year, but today didn't have the mammary system I could evaluate. So I placed her third. So we had a discussion with the breeder and told him, I wasn't sure what the udder would look like once the edema all came out. And he said, well, you know what it looked like last year? And I smiled and I said, yeah, but I just judge him for today. And a week from today, you probably would have won the class, but today couldn't do it. So that's one aspect of it. The other one is judging teams. When I worked at the University of Minnesota, I was a judging team coach. And so we brought teams down here to compete. They use the cattle here. So these classes they put together are just excellent. And there's a team of four students. And they would then judge the contest here the day before the open show would start. So they could use any cows or heifers here on the grounds. And so they had really good quality cattle. And so it worked out really well. And in fact, in 1974, we won the contest. And at that time, it was not the national contest, it was a regional contest. And so the kids were quite excited about that. And then 2 years later, the national contest, then came here, and then we won that one, which I thought was just kind of my third best team, and they just clicked. It worked out very, very well. So that was always exciting to have that opportunity to get that job done. So judging, there's college judging, FFA judging, 4-H judging. College, there's 2-year school, 4-year school. So a lot of different contests. And so all these kids have a chance to see some very elite cows that's available here in North America, and a great experience. They judge typically 10 classes, get 5 sets of reasons, and reasons mean that they explain to the judge why they place the cattle a certain way, and they get a score not only in the placing, but also how good a job they do in giving reasons. So it teaches organization of information and factors like that. Really good life skills in the judging contest. Another aspect, of course, of Expo is the opportunity to explain or do some educational experience. And so we had a commercial company invite myself plus 2 other individuals to talk about hemorrhagic bowel syndrome. And as I understand, this is more of a problem, more so, or detected more so as such things as Vietnam, Europe, and Brazil, as far as that goes here. And so the hemorrhagic bowel is a disorder that really causes cows actually to die. It's a blockage in the small intestine. Usually it's a clot and forms in the intestine, so it's a blockage. And so we were talking about hemorrhagic bowel, and basically it's a blockage in the small intestine, and basically the cow is shut down. She cannot pass any of the food and feed, and typically these cows will diagnosed in the morning, for example, and the next morning they'll be dead. They just die very, very quickly as far as that goes. So the amount of science we have on it is really limited, because as you're trying to figure out what causes it, and dead cows don't talk very much. So as a result, very limited data on what we can get research-wise. The first speaker talked a bit about what the incidence was. 2 to 3% of the cows are pretty common. Also, pictures of what the blockage looked like, and from that aspect there, also some of the organisms that may be involved. The second speaker was a veterinarian, actually from the veterinary school here at the University of Wisconsin, and he discussed some of the mycotoxins like Clostridia A, also Persingis aspergillus flavus, which is a mold that can occur in feed, some studies that he was involved with there. And the bottom line is that we don't know much more than what we knew about it, say, 10 years ago. The one that was really interesting to me, he runs a diagnostic lab here in Madison, Wisconsin. There are several in Wisconsin, and in the last 5 years, 0 cows came in with hemorrhagic bowel or samples taken from those cows as well. My part was to talk, well, what about on farm? What can we do about this? What are some of the risk factors? And I looked at just 2 factors. The first one had to do with the cow herself. And the at-risk cows at one time were brown Swiss. That has kind of gone away at this point. Very high producing cows that are probably, producing 50-60% above the herd average. Early lactation cows tend to be third lactation cows as well. And there seems to be no clear season effect like summer, fall, spring, or winter as far as here in the Midwest as far as that goes. So there's not a lot of things. It just basically says that if you've got good cows, there is a risk that you're going to once in a while lose a cow with hemorrhagic bowel. The veterinarian said there's really only 2 things you can do once a cow is diagnosed with it. A few vets are willing to try to break up the clots, literally break them out and see if they will pass through the digestive tract. And the other one is fluid therapies and products like that, and see if we can get the cow back on her feet. The number of cows that die, typically 70 to 100% death loss as far as that goes. Basically, I looked then, besides the cow, I looked at feeding aspects, and some of them would be such things as high dry matter intake, which means good cows who eat more dry matter, high levels of starch, and then we spent some time looking at starch. Starch is more than just 28% of the ration dry matter. We look at the processing of that grain mix. For example, is it steam flake? Is it high moisture corn? Is it rehydrated corn? Is it dry corn as far as that goes? And then the source of it. In other words, we know that corn starch tends to be a bit slower compared to wheat. which you find in Europe, and barley in Canada. And so the type of starch. Brazil, for example, has a different kind of corn starch than we have here in the U.S. Brazil has flinty corn, the U.S. has dent corn, and that makes a difference in terms of it. And then we showed some data on processing in terms of particle size. For example, right now we're looking at ground corn somewhere around 400 to 600 microns is the average particle size. But remember, when we say the average is 600, some of that corn will be 1,000. So that'll go at a different rate compared to some that is like flour. So that makes a difference out there as well. So we talk about starch. We ask not only how much is in the diet, but then how quickly is it fermented in the digestive tract. Because there's some concern that if the starch gets out of the rumen and not digested as much or fermented as much as it should, then maybe that could be a contributing factor in the small intestine. But I said you're smiling, saying, well, if that's the case, then we should have a lot more cows in trouble, because a lot of cows in the Midwest are fed diets at 28 to 30% starch. That's a lot of starch. And then we looked at, also showed that corn silage starch is not corn silage starch, which means that if I harvest it in September and start feeding in October, it's a different type of corn silage starch fermentability than if I feed it in January, February, or March. So we got to be aware of that as well. We also talked about microtoxins, molds. Clostridium could result in damage, and the Aspergillus faecalis is a yeast. A fungal, and therefore certainly anything we can do to reduce any problems of mold formation should be a plus out there in the program. We then reviewed the stuff from the World Dairy Market Survey, and you can see there are a number of additives that really work towards the rumen. Rumen buffers, 40%, yeast products, 30%, probiotics, 10%, and a product called Omnigen, which is a company-specific product, and about 10% of the farmers feeding that, and that was really associated with hemorrhagic bowel syndrome. We then finished up my last part of the talk, and that is a case study. And so we worked very closely with one farm in central Illinois, probably 8 or 10 years ago, in which after the meeting, the young dairyman was in tears because his best cow, they had a bull contract, and that's kind of a neat thing for a dairy farmer to get a bull in stud service, passed away 2 days ago. So the local veterinarian, the nutritionist, myself, and the dairyman said, what are we going to do? And so what he did, and I talked to that nutritionist about a month ago, and he said, well, we aren't seeing any more troubles on the farm. Maybe he's just fortunate, still a very high producing. In fact, he was the 5th highest herd in the state of Illinois. And they basically fed a little less starch, meaning they took grain out of there. They also went in and put some byproduct feeds like wheat midds and soy hulls in there to lower the speed of the starch as far as that goes. And they also fed the Omnigen. Did all 3 of them help? Did any of them help? We don't know today, but cows aren't dying. And needless to say, nowadays here in the U.S., if a cow dies, the salvage value of that cow is probably going to be close to $1,500 to $1,800. I have to buy a replacement. That'll cost me somewhere around $2,500 to $3,000. So it's a huge economic factor as well. And just the frustration, the emotional part of this cow, a cow giving 140 pounds of milk this morning in the last day, and tomorrow she will be dead or producing 10 or 12 pounds of milk and has a risk of dying as far as that goes. So certainly it's a challenge, disorder, and don't know much about it. And that's unfortunate, and looks like we're not doing any real research. The research that's being done is in Europe, primarily in Belgium and the Netherlands. They're doing, but it's primarily looking at organisms that may be attributing to weakening the intestinal wall or causing the formation of the blood itself. Well, this is another aspect of the World Dairy Expo, and that is their forage contest. And so as you can see right here, we've got all different forages submitted from around the United States and Canada. And then you can see how it's judged. Basically, the samples are sent to a forage testing lab. 70% of the value is a forage analysis, and the other 30% is physical evaluation, which means we're going to take this crop. This happens to be the 2004 Grand Champion analysis of mature haylage. And so the visual evaluation would be such things as smelling it, very good smell to it, looking at particle size. We could do a Penn State box. I don't think they do that, but you can see a much better cut than, say, and this one over here. So we look at the two halos. Just as the Grand Champion, it's a wetter one. This is much drier, and you can see it's got long pieces in here, which means could be some sorting that would go on at this placing. And this one ends up being third. So this is a third place sample as far as that goes. But beautiful smell, beautiful color as far as that goes. No evidence of heat damage. Feels good. What I tend to do is, I'm not sure I can legally do this. Nobody's watching me, but I will take and ball it up. And what I'm looking at is to see if it holds its shape. That's probably going to be 30-35% dry matter. If I can juice it, and I'm getting very close to that. If I look at it, you can look at my hands. You can see I've got some juice on my hands as far as that goes. But I'm guessing this is 35% dry matter. Let's see how good a job did I do guessing as far as dry matter. Basically 32%, almost too wet. So some judges would probably penalize it just a little bit. This one has a final score of 95.13. Protein 24.6. Ash 24-hour digestibility is going to be, let's see, this is ash. 68.9% NDF digestibility at 30 hours. That's a really high number. That'd be almost like BMR corn silage to be exact. And you can see this is using the new milk yield equation. This is a milk yield here of 315 pounds of milk. You can see the final score is 3,753 pounds of milk per ton as far as that goes. And you can see the different scores they have here. This is a alfalfa haylage. It's called A2. I'm not sure if that means, but it's the Grand Champion sample as far as that goes. This one over here has a final score of 91.6. And you can see the dry matter here, quite dry. In fact, that one's too dry, and that probably hurt us. Sitting at 51% dry matter. Good protein, 24.8. NDF, again, at 26.9. That's a very good number here. We like to see a number under 30 out here. This one over here, the Champion, is at 25.9. Ash, 10%. This is 11%. That doesn't mean not too much contamination. Digestibility, 69. 54, so some real differences here as far as that goes. And then milk per ton, about 200 pounds less milk per ton. Final score 84. This is the third place silage as far as that goes. So again, if we do this test like this and we squeeze it, it should open right on up. And it does open right up. I would have guessed it at about 45, 46 if I was guessing. Also, if you feel it, it's very prickly, it's sharp. So I don't know if I was a cow eating this, if that would affect my palate as far as consuming the feed as far as that goes. Here's the second place one. And again, you can see it's going to be, it's wetter. It's kind of intermediate. It says 38.9% dry matter. And so you can see it very slowly opens up. I would guess that about 40 as far as that. Nice job of chopping as far as that goes out here in the program. These will all get some type of an award. Could be equipment, could be dollars or dollar value as far as that goes. Great concept. So this is haylage. There's also grass samples here, corn silage samples as well, and they have the same judging contest. Really a neat contest as far as that goes as well. This is corn silage. Again, the judging criteria is the same as far as that goes. And we've got, this is BMR, brown midrib, which means low lignin, which means that it's going to be higher quality than conventional corn silages. And we've got the Grand Champions, two of them here. Interesting. It must be close enough to be tied. Again, this is, let's pick it up. The beauty of this is other people are doing the same thing. I'm not going to look at it yet, but I'm going to squeeze it pretty hard. I can get close to juicing slowly. I'm going to guessing this is around 33, 34% dry matter, 36. Well, close enough for government work. Smells beautifully, got a great aroma. Like it smells like corn silage is supposed to smell. I look at it and I see no corn. This is smashed corn, but I don't want to see any corn in it. I hold this up here, and that's my theoretical length of chop. That's about 19 millimeters, probably in length of chop. You can pick that up, and you can just see the pieces in here on it. And if I'm going to shake this out in the Penn State box, I will bet you we would get over 60% in the middle box, which would be excellent. Just excellent as far as that goes. So certainly, as far as visually, an A+ from my aspect there. Protein not a big factor, just 7.5% protein, nutrient fiber 36%, starch 36% starch. So lots of starch in this corn side. Even though we can't see it, it's there because the processor really did a number on it. You can see the NDF digestibility at 30 hours, 73. Anytime you get over 65, that's good BMR corn silage. Anything over 60 is certainly acceptable corn silage, conventional speak. So it got a really, really low number here. And again, you can see if you look at milk, using the new equation, milk 2000 equation, 3,441 pounds of milk potential. We're on the next one over here. This is 3,332 pounds of milk. So just a lot of potential here. The final score, you can see this one is 97.9. This is 97.6. They give them both blue ribbons as far as that goes. You can see if you look at this one here. Don't like it nearly as well. If I was going to score them, a lot of this. Now that could be part of the corn here. It's a much more coarse, less consistent corn silage here. If we take a look at it as far as that goes, and again, I don't want to cheat. I didn't look at it yet. Let's see if I'm going to guess. About the same dry matter, I'd guess probably around 36, and the dry matter is 36. So you're going to say I cheated, but I didn't. All right, a little bit less starch in this one here at 32%. Interesting. Very interesting corn silages. Certainly, they were saying that they have about 200 samples this year that came into the contest. They got 8 categories, and so they're down this year. The reason for that is a lot of rain damage in June and July, so that would reduce the quality. So a lot of farmers got normally would be in the contest didn't enter as far as that goes. And corn silage is still being chopped in some parts here in Wisconsin. It is not in Illinois. We're already done as far as that goes. And again, this is the standard corn silage. And here is we got 2 blue ribbons, winners here again. And again, this one is, we'll take a look at it. This is conventional, non-BMR. And again, we're kind of looking at it, not quite as precision chopped as we saw in the BMR. Maybe that's because it's a little higher in lignin content. Again, no evidence of corn kernels in here. Theoretical length of chop, a little bit shorter. That might be, it's probably about 16 millimeters, something like that. But you can see lots of longer pieces in here as well, compared to what we saw earlier in it as far as that goes. If we look at the results, 34% dry matter, perfect. At this point, starch, look at this, 41% starch. Huge starch number as far as that goes. NDF is up a little bit compared to our BMR, that's because of the lignin content. And if we looked at NDF digestibility, 62.2, which is a good number. The other one over here is 69, so obviously also a very good number for conventional corn silage. 69 is huge. That almost looks like BMR as far as that goes. And you can see these have right around 3,300 pounds of milk as far as that goes. So good competition. You're only seeing about 10 samples, I believe, here, and there'll be many more, but they just display the top 10. Some years they would display a lot more, but if you look at the top 10, you can see the difference that would occur as far from that aspect. I'm sorry, I'm just going to take a second.
But really, they even
I'm not going to take this 36.7 and NDF.